presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game. Big Ten champions. Big Ten champs.
National champions, yes.
Oklahoma City bound the Oregon Ducks.
Awesome day to be a Duck, man.
Boom inside. Touchdown Oregon. He gets loose. Fires. Hit. Pops the three. Oh, yeah. It's all Oregon.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider.
It's about how to be a group of people that know how to love each other to the absolute fullest.
Pleasure, joy to be with them each and every day. And I can't wait for the future.
It's just fun to be a part of a community that cares, that is passionate, and when we come together, powerful things can happen.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck Athletics.
A slew of sports in action today, some here in Eugene, notably the Oregon baseball team. A top 25 matchup between the Ducks and the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. And if you missed the news around social media or wherever you follow things yesterday, the Ducks and the Huskers moved the game up to 3 o'clock today. So if you're like, wait, I was going to be at PK Park at 5 o'clock. Leave work early. 3:05 the official start. We've got a 2:45 pregame show across the Oregon Sports Network. And then the Ducks and Huskers also have decided here recently to move tomorrow's game to 12:05. So that means that this series will now feature a 3 o'clock start, noon start, and noon start. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Ducks and the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. Again, 3 o'clock today, noon Saturday, noon Sunday at PK Park for a top 25 battle. Two really good teams that are contending in the Big Ten standings. And, you know, certainly you want to try to win a Big Ten title. Ducks trying to defend their regular season title. UCLA has been really good this year, there's no doubt. But looking at the Big Ten standings, Nebraska's lost one game. The Ducks have lost 4. They could catch the Huskers. The Ducks could here this weekend. And it's critical with the way the Big Ten tournament is set up to finish in the top 4. Essentially, it's a play-in tournament to play the top 4 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the Big Ten tournament. If you're in the top 4, you don't play in the Big Ten tournament until Friday. Huge. Huge advantage to try to get into the top 4, get that automatic berth. Could be a critical series that determines exactly that here this weekend. And the Ducks did not play their best baseball against Portland on Wednesday. You know who's the first to say that? Mark Wazakowski. I talked to him in his office this morning, and he said, hey, look, there were miscues, but the Ducks did score 9 runs, change up the lineup a little bit. Early returns positive on the change in the lineup. Junior Lewacki had 3 hits. Braden Jackson had 3 hits. Drew Smith hit a 3-run home run. Ryan Cooney hitting third, looked comfortable there after he's been the leadoff guy. So some good takeaways for Oregon baseball. They're still 24-9. A good resume right now. Ducks have a chance to really improve that resume here against Nebraska, as they've been on a bit of a downturn. Lost a series for the first time in a year at Michigan. Ducks also dropped that midweek at Portland. Chance to get things right. And it's beautiful sunshine skies right now in Eugene, if you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour. So moving that game up to 3 o'clock, I like it. Noon tomorrow looks like the best window. Hey, it's baseball. You're going to try to get the games in as best you can. Also, a happy birthday is in order. Mark Wazakowski always leads off every Toyota Coach's Corner with birthdays. One, he's sitting right below us in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. Ben McKay's birthday is today. Happy birthday, Benny. He leads the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. Also, Dan Lanning's birthday is today. Happy birthday to the head coach of the Ducks, Dan Lanning. He and the Ducks will scrimmage tomorrow. That's right. Oregon football, first scrimmage of spring camp is tomorrow. The Ducks will scrimmage one more time coming up next weekend, then the spring game on April 25th. We're just over 2 weeks away from the spring game on April 25th. Ducks, I think, have demonstrated over the years that the spring game is a must-see and must-attend event. I mean, seriously, like this has become a spectacle in some ways of the spring calendar. It's always Chamber of Commerce weather when Oregon football plays the spring game. Oregon baseball and Oregon softball are both in action that day as well. I'm looking forward to what I think is going to be a great day at Autzen Stadium. And the Ducks certainly learned some things in scrimmage environments. Coach Lanning was even talking at practice this week about how you got to communicate as if it's a scrimmage. Same communication the Ducks will use during the scrimmage. We're going to see a lot. I think the coaches and the players learn a lot when it's a scrimmage environment. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll have a Quack Minute practice report, all of the content for you coming out on Saturday. And Coach Lanning and a few other members of the Oregon football staff and team will meet with the media. Those will be available on the Go Ducks YouTube. We'll have them for you here on Duck Insider as well. We'll talk through the rest of the Oregon schedule for the weekend, and we've got a number of interviews to get you today. Let's begin with Joe Lorig, Duck Special Teams Coordinator. I always enjoy listening to Coach Lorig break down special teams. He's very cerebral, and the Ducks put a big emphasis on it. He's made it very clear. A guy who has had a ton of success coaching special teams in his career, Joe Lorig always makes a point to say how much he values that Coach Lanning values special teams. And listen to what he said about last year's Iowa game here. Interesting stuff. Special teams coordinator Joe Lorig, that kicks off our show today.
Pretty new look kicking room this year with Atticus gone. Just curious, kind of early, I know it's early spring, but kind of your instant impressions of that.
Yeah, new look with pretty much everybody gone, right? So we have Gage back. We added Keaton Emmett, who came in from Nevada, Reno, and then Rocco Graziano's back also. So probably a little bit early. We haven't even had a scrimmage to tell yet, to be honest with you. I don't want to give you false information, but obviously those guys are all here for a purpose. I brought them all here. I'm excited about all of them. I think we'll know more after Saturday. We're having an actual scrimmage, but so far been pretty good. Gage is a returning guy that really I've kind of been preparing him for this for the last couple of years. Knew that he would be the heir apparent, kind of on paper. So he's certainly done a great job, had a great off season. And then Keaton has been injured a little bit this spring, so I haven't gotten to see quite as much of him. He should be back this week, nothing major. And then Rocco's really gotten a lot better. Rocco's really, he came in with a really big leg, great athlete. My experience over the years says that the more athletic a kicker is, the better they're going to be typically. And Rocco was a multi-sport athlete in high school here at Sheldon High School in Eugene, and had a really big leg, but wasn't really accurate. He wasn't really a great kicker yet, but I knew he had great talent. So he's really made a ton of progress as well, and really just excited to see those three guys battle it out and compete. It's just like any other position. Anytime you have really good guys behind each other, just like quarterback. Like, you don't want to have one good quarterback. He's not going to get better because no one's pushing him, right? So same kind of thought process. So I'm excited about all three. And I think as we progress through the spring, we'll have a better idea of exactly kind of how those dominoes will fall.
You mentioned Keaton. I was going to ask you about the two other additions, punter and long snapper, and kind of were those seen as plug-and-play guys or open competitions? Just kind of give us a thought of what you see with those two.
Yeah, so it's always going to be open competition here. We're not going to ever promise people that they can start or something like that because that's just the nature of our program. But certainly those two guys were brought in the idea that they would be starters. RJ, the long snapper, is really talented, came to us from Western Michigan. As you guys know that have covered us, we lost Luke Basso to graduation, who was a really phenomenal player. No one thinks about the long snapper besides me and maybe his mom, right? But if you don't have one, there's a team up the road that happened to last year. If you don't have one, it's a really big deal. Like, it'll have a massive impact on games. So with Luke leaving, being a multi-year starter, I felt like we needed to bring someone in that could be as you say, a plug-and-play starter. Certainly RJ was a multi-year starter when he came from, has played in a ton of games in Big Ten venues, in big games. That's one of the things that you always want to try to evaluate if you're bringing in a transfer is, how's this guy? A lot of guys can snap the ball really well, but it's like, well, can you snap it in front of 50,000 people when there's 4 million watching, or however many watch on ESPN, that pressure. So it's good to get a guy that's done that in those kind of big situations. He's done that. He's really talented. He's very, very good. I'm super happy with him. Then there's a guy named Thomas Donkerbrook, which we actually had brought in last year, but there wasn't room on the roster. So he just went to school here last fall, but he was here all fall, would come to practice all the time to observe us, and then worked with Coach Finch, one of the long snapping instructors, through Chris Rubio, who is doing a really good job kind of on the side for us. Worked with him all fall and then joined us in the wintertime. So excited about him as well. And then Bailey, he goes by Baz, possibly the oldest punter in the country. I'm not sure. He's told me at one time he was 27. Another time he told me he was 28. So I'm joking, obviously, right? But he is an older guy, but he was a freshman, also transferred from Nevada last year. Really excited about him. We were really blessed to have James Ferguson Reynolds last year, came from Boise, those of you that covered us last year, and really needed someone to step in and fill those shoes. And that the way that we do our punts, where we kind of roll both ways, if you watch us, is pretty particular skill set. So it just turned out that James Ferguson knew We call them Baz. New Baz, they're from the same town. It's called Geelong in Australia. So they were friends growing up, and that was kind of how the connection started. And been really pleased with him. He's super, super talented. Same thing with the kickers. Haven't seen a bunch of live action on them more after Saturday, but it's a challenge. We've got, again, a lot of people don't think about it. They think more about offense and defense, which I get. But, we're replacing a snapper, a punter, a kicker, kick returner, punt returner. Like, we're replacing everybody. So that's kind of the nature of college football these days, too. So it's not like it's a major concern of mine, but it is something that it's just there's a lot of question marks to see what happens.
Special teams is an area that can get young guys on the field early in their careers. Has there been anybody from this freshman class or from moving into year 2 who has really just shown that enthusiasm for special teams and is trying to make an effort there so they can get on the field on offense or defense?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say anybody's necessarily specifically shown the effort because it's a non-negotiable in our program. The best players play. I just showed the players. I showed them the other day. Kenyon Sadiq, who's going to be one of the probably the first tight end drafted, a first round draft pick, started on all 4 special teams here: punt, kickoff cover, kickoff return, and punt return. Jeff Bossa was a 3-team starter. Jordan Birch started for us, and so just show those guys how it translates to them for the NFL. All players want to know 2 things. Number 1, how can you help them? And number 2, how can it help the team, right? So it's my job to make sure that those guys understand that, and then everybody in this program puts in the effort and wants to be on it. With Coach Lanning, you're not going to play on offense, defense unless you're going to contribute on special teams. It's a real deal here. We treat it different than other teams do, and we really believe. If you look at last year as a prime example, it's helped us win a bunch of games. So I wouldn't say anybody's given specific effort that way, and I don't want to. It'd be too hard because I don't want to point out 2 or 3 guys and then forget the other 30. But yes, I'm very excited about a lot of the young guys. The reason you can play sooner on special teams has nothing to do with skill set. It's just that there's a lesser playbook. Right, so you might have if you're on defense, you might have to react to the formation that they have and the call might have 4 different checks where there's a lot of thinking involved. Whereas if it's kickoff cover, there's not as much thinking, right? It's just like this is your job, go do it. So certainly you can play younger. So yeah, there are a bunch of guys that I'm excited about, but I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to some if I mentioned.
Building off what you just kind of mentioned, special teams played a major impact in a lot of your wins last year. Just how do you now that you've got a chance to reflect on the season, how do you just kind of encompass where special teams is at last year and how you grow that into this offseason? Yeah.
Well, again, that's the standard here. That's why Coach Lanning brought me here to have those kind of special teams units. Other places that I've been, we've been able to do that too. I've worked with Coach Lanning in the past, so I knew his philosophy because everybody in the country, all head coaches are going to talk about it being important, but most of them don't act like it, like behind the scenes. Everybody's going to say it because you're kind of supposed to say it, but the real reality is who becomes head coaches. Most head coaches were offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators, right? Offensive coordinators aren't in any special teams meetings. Most of them have never been to a special teams meeting in their entire life, right? So it's normal for them to kind of put it off to the side. That's just kind of a normal human behavior, I guess. But part of the reason that I came here, besides it's Oregon, and I'm really excited and blessed to be here, but part of it was because I knew Coach Lanning's philosophy on it because I'd been with him at Arizona State and Memphis, and knew that he would put in what it takes to put in to be good and have it be a difference for you. So really that's the standard for us. And again, a really big part of my job is sales. So I got to explain, I got to very clearly define to the players, this is how this is going to help you. Most of them want to play in the NFL, right? So almost every meeting, I show them a past player. I just gave a couple examples of Jordan Birch and Kenyon Sadiq and Jeff Bossa. Almost every meeting, I'll have an example of a guy, even guys in the past that have played here, and show how many snaps they played on defense last year versus how many snaps they played in the NFL versus how much their contract is. And so that resonates to the players of how that's going to help them. And then I'm constantly showing clips from last season or the last 2 years of how it's hurt us, because it's hurt us at times too, or how it's helped us. So again, how can I paint to the picture, the players, how can I paint a clear picture? This is how it'll help you, and this is how it'll help the team. So I think our team clearly understands that it had a major impact, but at the same time, obviously I'm answering questions for the first time this year, so addressing last year, but no one cares about last year at the same time, right? Like that's over. Now it's on to this year. So it's really just about showing them the picture of this is, the other day we showed the Iowa game. I don't know if you guys remember that game, but Iowa actually early in the game had a snap over their punter's head, and it resulted in a safety. 2 points, right? So you go throughout the whole course of the game, it comes down to a field goal, lots of plays involved. It's never one play or another. I don't mean it that way, but it comes down to a last-second field goal. We win the game, right? Does anybody know how much we won by? 18-16. We won by 2 points. And so I was showing, I'm just giving you an example. Just the other day in a meeting, I was like showing the players like, this is why we do what we do. Like it was like a wet ball thing. We do wet ball, practice all the time. And I was showing, I don't know if Iowa does that, but it didn't show up in that play. And so just showing those players of this is how it can help us win, and painting that picture over and over and over. Sorry for the long answer, but.
Right, Aaron, we love that. Okay. You mentioned not returning anybody and starting over a lot of positions. That includes returners, but you got Dier and DeCorian coming back. Who else maybe is in the mix for a punt return and kick return?
Yeah, Hooks has done really good. You said Evan, DeCorian, J-Mac's done a great job. I think those are the primary guys that are doing it. We got a couple young guys, Hudson Lewis, and a couple young guys that'll do it too. I've talked in here before that we only have 2 goals on special teams, right? That's to own the ball and have no penalties. Though if you just do those 2 things, take everything else out of it. If you just do those 2 things, you'll be pretty good. Okay, and what that means is when I say own the ball, it means not give up any possessions, right? Not give up fake punts, not fumble punts. And then obviously no penalties, no blocks in the back, those kind of things. Most teams hurt themselves on special teams just by like poor decision making, right? So the reason I say that is whenever we're looking at returners, and sometimes the fans don't understand, it might not be the most dynamic guy. We chart every single day. I saw 2 drops today. We chart every single day who is going to own the ball, who's going to make great decisions and catch the ball, because our belief, coming from Coach Lanning down to myself, is that we're going to have one of the best offenses in the country. So if we don't ever have a punt return, don't get me wrong, obviously we want to be good on punt return. It's my life, it's my job. Trust me, I want to be good at that. However, if we just get the ball to our dynamic offense, we're going to score lots of points and be really good, right? So the reason I say that is within who those guys all are, we got lots of really dynamic playmakers. Now it's going to be who's the best decision maker to make sure that we're always getting the ball back to our offense and not trying to, because sometimes the best dynamic guys will make poor decisions and it'll hurt you once in a while with fumbles or catching a ball they shouldn't have caught, those kind of things. So we have a bunch of good options. And now it'll just be kind of, as I said, charting it and kind of putting guys in situations to see who makes those best decisions by the time our first game comes.
We're going to continue to talk special teams with coordinator Joe Lorig as the Ducks get ready for their first scrimmage here of the spring tomorrow. It's going to be fun seeing everybody at Autzen Stadium again. Pressing pause. Back with Joe Lorig in a moment on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
We know you turn to the Duck Store for all your game day needs. And for students at the University of Oregon, it's even more. Class supplies, jobs, a seat on our board, a place to take a quick coffee break. Because we're your student-first, non-profit college store, every purchase you make directly supports the very community we serve. From working in our counters to studying in the classroom, from directing our stores to cheering in the stands, the people we serve, the students, are the very people who are the Duck Store.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
My name is Teresa Barber. I was in the United States Navy and I served overseas in the Middle East and Africa. Early on in my career, I had a commander that taught our suicide prevention training, and the very next day he took his own life. 90% of suicide attempts involving a gun are fatal. My way of continuing my service is to help protect my community by being a responsible gun owner and by storing firearms safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
This message is for Shauna, my mom who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Duck Insider is presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. I'm Joey Mack. We're in the Country Financial Studio. If you missed it earlier, Oregon baseball schedule update. The Ducks will now play Nebraska today at 3 o'clock, and then Saturday at noon and Sunday at noon, just with some rain in the forecast. Ducks adjusting to play in the best weather. And for fans, so that you can enjoy the time as best you can at PK Park, encourage you to all come out. Today is Stranger Things Day at the ballpark. I requested that at least at some point we turn the scoreboard upside down. We won't do it. I'm kidding. But I did think that it would be fun. Ryan and I, though, have some fun things planned for the broadcast today with Stranger Things. Spoiler-free, though. I'm going to do my best to not spoil anything. I feel like it's been long enough now. Like I think so if you're like on season 2, I had a student in one of my classes recently tell me that I spoiled Game of Thrones for them, and I'm like, dude, that ended like 10 years ago. I'm sorry about that still, by the way. But you got to be able to make the reference. Tomorrow's Bark in the Park. So those of you who are coming out with your companions, Saturday at noon, Bark in the Park at PK Park. Continuing with Joe Lorig, Oregon Special Teams Coordinator. Ducks, again, put a lot of focus on it, and he's a big reason that Oregon's had a lot of success in special teams in recent years. Joe Lorig continues to give us an update.
When you got here, I'm curious if you could go back to the time when you showed up and compare the just overall athleticism that this program now has, and maybe the number of players it's increased of opportunity to play special teams. How much has that grown of just guys that you feel like can help you? Because more guys are getting drafted here, more guys are getting on NFL rosters, better recruiting classes year after year. Just the talent level that's increased in the program and the options for you to pick guys for special teams.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely your depth typically shows up in that area, and then really it's really positional. So it's like linebackers, running backs, defensive backs, receivers. Those are kind of like make up your core, And I've certainly noticed maybe more speed, more size, and more depth. If you have 2 or 3 good safeties, then you can, and there's not a huge drop off, you can use that third safety maybe and not have to use the first safety as an example. So I think there's definitely been an uptick, and I think you can see that in our play over the years, how it's trickled down to special teams. It's a good evaluation.
You've talked the past couple of years about how valuable guys like Noah and Jaden were at kick return just for their experience, their smarts, their dependability. How hard is that to replace, and what are some of the intrinsic values you're looking for from those guys back there?
Yeah, so very similar to punt return. It's certainly hard to replace just because it's a if you think about it, it's one of those plays like, I don't know if anybody in here has ever caught a punt or a kickoff, but it's harder than you think, right? And then you're back there and you're looking up as 10 grown men are running down 75 yards or 65 yards, whatever it is, at you, right? And you're looking up at the ball, and what's every single fan looking at? You, right? So like creating that scenario, that pressure is one of the biggest things. And then, as I said on punt return, it's the same kind of concept. It's like, who's going to be a great decision maker, right? One good thing here is we put a lot of time into special teams, and so we do have a lot of guys, even though they might not have gotten game reps last year or as many game reps, they've gotten a lot of accumulated practice reps where I feel comfortable putting those guys in there. So certainly not easily replaceable. There's nothing that replaces experience. That's really my only concern, is just guys that haven't done it. But I know, it's funny you asked that, because I was actually thinking about it today. Today I was walking out of practice and I saw Dier Hill take off running, and I was thinking, like, if I was a kickoff, I always flip it and just think like, okay, if I was the other team and I had to kick off to just, I'm not saying these are the guys, but I was just watching Dier run. I was thinking, if I had to kick either to Dier to my left or like Jordan Davison to my right, that wouldn't be very fun, right? Like, that'd be a pretty challenging thing. So we certainly have plenty of guys back there. It's just going to be a matter of, as I said with punt return, putting them in those situations enough that you feel comfortable and confident that they're going to make the right decisions.
Wanted to follow up really quickly on Gage, just because we've talked so much to the past 2 kickers about kind of the mental side, and I think we've seen Gage a little bit out there. I'm curious just kind of what, can you speak to that component for a young kicker and kind of what you've seen there, maybe that confidence in grooming him, like you said?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of either have it or you don't. You certainly can develop it. So I don't mean it that way, but I mean, certain guys are just wired that way. The key is to put them in as many of those situations as you possibly can. As I just said, so I was talking about the kick returner. Well, think about it when you're the kicker, right? And no one cares about the kicker until the kicker really matters. I guarantee you, at the end of the Iowa game, every single person cared about Oregon's kicker. No one even probably knew who it was before then, right? So it's one of those things where I think Coach Lanning does a great job. We did it today of putting those guys in those situations as much as you can. Now, so like we had the whole team come up, and it's a pressure kick from wherever we decide to put it that day. And sometimes, like if they miss it, then the whole team has to run a gasser. If you make it, then nobody has to run. So just trying to recreate that pressure. I think we do a really good job of that. However, I would be lying if I said there's nothing in the world that's going to just picture yourselves. I just talked about it with the kick returner and punt returner. Well, even more the kicker. He runs out there and he goes and takes his steps, and everybody in the country that's watching the game is just looking just at him. That's a lot of pressure, right? That's different. It's just like I'm not a golfer. I wish I was a better golfer, but I'm a fisherman instead. However, but like if you go out and like golf people will tell me if they're just playing golf, like no big deal if you're playing with your son or something. But now all of a sudden you're playing for money, or you're playing in front of a crowd or in front of a group. It's like, yeah, it's a little different. It's very similar to that. So just continue to put those guys in those situations. One of the things that I always look for in recruiting is the guys that have that. I'll try to test them through things that I'll ask them. I'll try to put them in situations in camp to make them really uncomfortable. A lot of kids, for instance, like when a kid comes to our special teams camp, Coach Lanning will come out. A lot of head coaches don't do this. Coach Lanning will come out and just like stand right by the kid and watch him. Well, if you're a junior in high school or something and the head coach at Oregon is standing watching you kick, that's probably pretty nerve-wracking, right? So trying to do as much homework as we can in those situations, meeting with kids not at their school all the time. That's their comfort zone, right? So having them out of their comfort zone and just trying to you just see kids react in different ways. And so you try to recruit guys that have that already and then continue to develop it. And Gage is a really mentally tough kid. Like I knew that when we recruited him out of high school. Again, super good athlete, played at one of the best high schools in the state, West Lynn, played on defense and offense, was around great. He was in big games, was around a lot of other great players. So that's one of the things that I like most about him is his makeup. And really the true character is what happens when something bad happens. Because again, you guys have all heard it and seen it, like kicker lost the game or kicker won the game, whatever. I always tell them it never comes down to that. If you miss a kick and lose the game, right, and then you say that's your fault, well then when we win the game because you made a kick, did you win the game yourself? Never. Like that would never happen. I guess Dante Moore didn't play that week. I mean, what are we talking about, right? So they have to have that same mentality all the time. But it's a good point you bring up, and it's just one of those things that you just got to keep putting them in the situation as much as you possibly can. And one thing I really like about Gage, as I said earlier, is we've been able to develop him. So Gage last year kicked 31 extra points. So we do that on purpose. Like I knew Atticus was going to be the kicker going into fall, based on fall camp, but we put him in those situations. So this fall when he runs out in Autzen, it's not the first time, and he's going like, "Whoa, this is kind of cool." When does shout come up? Like all that stuff's hard for people, for young kids to have to deal with. So he's already dealt with that. So hopefully that shortens the learning curve for him.
Long snapper position, like you mentioned, having Luke set in there for the last couple of years, people can almost forget that you're having to turn over that entire unit now. How much, when it's a specific skill set kind of thing like that, how much is it a chemistry thing that you have to build out through this spring with him and the punter holder and stuff like that?
Massive, yeah. I mean, again, it's just like a center quarterback exchange, right? Like it's massive. So we have a huge emphasis. We do it. They have to do 5 sets of 10 every single day. So that's 50, however many that is a week, 250 a week, I guess. They'll do that throughout the summer. And then a lot of it is, again, it's just like every other position. A lot of it is like hanging out away from football, hanging out away from me, going and working in the mow when nobody's looking, right? So it's definitely about developing that chemistry, and certainly I do it as a position group. And then a lot of it will happen, during the spring and then continue after the spring. Are you going rafting together? What are you doing on Thursday night? Are you going out to dinner together? Are you hanging out together? Because that chemistry, as you said, is a really, really important piece of it.
Joe Lorig, Oregon Special Teams Coordinator, giving us an update on his group. I really loved his description. That's why I use it in the Quack Minute, if those of you that watch on the Oregon social media channels, where he's like describing what it's like looking up and you're the one looking at the ball, and meanwhile everyone is looking at you. It's just like, yeah, that's a little different, right? And so you try to create those pressure environments, but when there's fans in the stands, which there will be April 25th, that's when you can get that real evaluation. You try to put guys in those situations because that experience, it calms the nerves. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't calm those nerves in those moments, yeah, things get a little interesting. When we come back, we'll look around the Oregon Athletic Department. Also, a ton of Oregon football interviews to get to. Keep it here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear Friday, Toyota says let's put good times in gear with the Tundra, Tacoma, and 4Runner. Want some cool available features? We've got power tailgates to power game days and a trailer backup guide that's the champ of the ramp. Heck, we might even cancel Monday. Toyota trucks. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Don't act like that. Don't wear that. Don't think that. I've heard everything you tell yourself every time you felt different. And I want you to know that you can be vulnerable and powerful. That taking care of your mind is taking care of everyone you love and who loves you. Love your mind. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
I'm coming home to the place that I remember. Back to the land of my first love. Would you spread wide your arms for this wayward son? I left my heart in.
It's Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Oregon Athletics with all kinds of events going on here with the winter sports wrapping and then the spring sports really into the heart of their schedule. Oregon Beach Volleyball continues a record-setting season today. They're in Honolulu. We'll have some updates for you on GoDucks.com. Oregon Women's Tennis is at the Student Tennis Center. They're just getting going, I believe, on the outdoor courts. Oregon Track and Field is down in Azusa for a couple multi-events. Oregon Men's Tennis is in Columbus today, taking on Ohio State at 3 o'clock. Oregon Softball, 3 o'clock against Maryland in College Park. It's on Big Ten Network, and Aiden Hess is out there for KWVA. That's right. What wins pregame? About 250? Yeah, about 250 for pregame for the hometown radio call on KWVA with Aiden Hess. Oregon softball game day against Maryland, beginning a 3-game series. And then Oregon baseball again, 3 o'clock today, moving things up with some rain in the forecast here tonight. Oregon baseball at 3 o'clock today. The Ducks taking on Nebraska in a top 25 series at PK Park. Hope to see all of you there. Oregon women's lacrosse team, they put up one of their more competitive conference games to date, but could not topple the number 18 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Final was 19-9. Ducks are now 6-8. They scored 9 goals for the second game in a row, but were outmatched on the offensive effort by the Nittany Lions, who are one of the best teams in the country. They're 11-3, 3-2 in conference. Lexi Jenkins was a standout, though, for Oregon. Recorded her first career hat trick. Anna Simmons and Emma Ing tallied a pair of goals as well. Anna Simmons is in every recap for Oregon lacrosse. Going to be all over the record book by the time her career is done. Jess Drummond sounded like she was pretty proud of the team tonight. They're close to breaking through, it seems like. A program that's continuing to build against competition in the Big Ten, where it's just littered with top 25 teams, top 5 teams even across the Big Ten. And it feels like they're trending in the right direction. We'll sit down with Jess Drummond next week. They're getting ready for senior day against USC. Another guy who is trending in the right direction is Aaron Flowers, back to Oregon football. Defensive back that jumped from, being in spot snaps as a freshman to his sophomore year where he was one of the highest snap count guys on Oregon's defense. Now a real leader who's working on his communication as a leader in the defensive backfield. Aaron Flowers talking spring football.
You know, the staff always talks about kind of the improvement plan for every player. It's kind of individualized. What are kind of some of the things on that list for you and how you attack those this offseason?
Oh, just playing smarter in big-time moments, just getting better in my slot man technique and just man coverage overall. That's what I really got to work on.
After the Peach Bowl, I talked to you in the locker room, and you really hammered home that game and that performance for you individually. How much of a driving factor, motivating factor has that been over the last 2-3 months for you just in your development?
I mean, it's been really big, you know. I mean, I feel like that's game I got exposed a lot in, so I just took it to heart and I would just replay it in my mind, knowing what I have to be ready for, especially coming next season.
Coming into last year, I think most people would have thought of you as more of a box safety, but you guys were able to find a lot of success when you went over the top and Dylan was able to drop into that stacked cover 2 kind of look that you guys did. Just what makes you successful as a guy who can play over the top as a free safety?
I just feel like it's just my IQ and stuff. I just feel like I just know the offensive plays half the time, so I just feel like that really helps. And then with a guy like Dylan, him being super smart and physical down in the box, we play really well off each other.
Yeah, what's it been like working with Parrish so far, and what are your impressions of him?
Oh, I mean, he's crazy good, crazy ball skills, really loves the game of football. I mean, he's a baller. That's all I can say.
I guess this defense, new management, somebody that you've worked with a lot with Chris Hampton, what are you seeing from him and kind of the defense now under different leadership?
I see it. I mean, it's a little bit more simpler now, I guess, this year. But it's still same defense, I feel like. It's Lanning controls it. But, I mean, it's players over plays right now, so he just lets the best players do what's their best and just calls it off of that.
Speaking about Parrish, you know, he's a guy that people have drawn a lot of similarities between him and Dylan Thieneman. What do you see there in terms of the similarities and maybe the differences between those guys?
I mean, they're similar. I mean, they're both really good safeties. I mean, personalities are like too different. They can't really be compared to each other. But I mean, they're both really good in the pass situations and the run. So I mean, personally, I don't think they're similar, but like they're still really good players. Just two different guys.
You're a guy that flies downhill as hard as you do to attack the run. Missed tackles can be a thing at times, but what do you do in the offseason to try to work on that when you can't necessarily get those live reps where the tackling dummy can't try to make you miss or anything? So how do you try to focus on that during the offseason?
During the offseason, I feel like, I mean, as a safety group, we get together after practice or after walkthroughs, and then we just run against each other and stuff, try to get a near hip. It's more about the approach when it comes to tackling, just bring your hips. So I feel like we just work on that. Everything else follows.
Was your involvement, if any, or more so your reaction of the 4 guys up front all announcing they're coming back for their senior years and just the importance of that for this defense?
Oh, I mean, it's really, really important for us, especially on the back end. Like, we don't have no pass rush. You can't have a good pass defense without a pass rush. You can't cover guys for 8 seconds. So I feel like that just really surprised me and just made me really happy to come back and play another season.
I know Jet Washington's a lot of talk about him, but physically, some of the things he can do. Have there been some wow moments you've seen from him this spring, or kind of what would you assess what you've noticed?
Oh, I mean, like he's really, really smart. I feel like he just really takes a step and then really studies the playbook. And then as a freshman, I just feel like he just takes it up a notch compared to other freshmen, and he just really is super smart.
Dylan talked a lot last year about the safety being kind of the quarterback of the defense, especially with how much you have to rotate coverage and stuff at the last second. Just how have you continued to develop into being that vocal leader as you step into year 2 as a starter now?
Just like learning off of Dylan, you know, I feel like he was a really good communicator, and then that just really motivated me now this year, and just to know the whole defense. You can't just know your job. You have to know the linemen, the linebackers, know what gaps are fitting, and then you got to set everybody up since you can see it from the really back end.
Aaron Flowers, Duck defensive back, breaking it down. You know, one of the themes from Tony Tuioti, the defensive line coach, talking about communication amongst linebackers. The Ducks have a different green dot. You know, like Jerry Mixon did it some last year, did it in practice a lot when Bryce Betcher was handling it a lot on the field. Now guys like Devin Jackson are doing it, and then all the way back to the defensive backfield. Now it's Aaron Flowers, right? You have these guys that have played a lot, and we've heard from them. A guy like Aaron Flowers could have not just a great season from a statistics standpoint, but now from a leadership standpoint. Like, he's a guy that Oregon's defensive backfield is looking to. Timeout. When we return, we're going to get into a new face on the offensive line. You're going to like hearing from Michael Bennett next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
When life blindsides you with an injury, you need a team that's tough. For over 30 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people. This season, we're proud to partner with Oregon Athletics. Because whether it's on the field or in the courtroom, we're both determined to do what it takes to win. Morgan & Morgan, proud partner of Oregon Athletics. Injured? Dial pound law. Morgan & Morgan, 10150 Southwest 6th Avenue, Portland. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
And here's Heather with the weather.
Well, it's beautiful out there, sunny and 75, almost a little chilly in the shade. Now, let's get a read on the inside of your car. It is hot. You've only been parked a short time and it's already 99 degrees in there. Let's not leave children in the back seat while running errands. It only takes a few minutes for their body temperatures to rise, and that could be fatal.
Cars get hot, fast, and can be deadly. Never leave a child in a car. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You know you make me wanna take my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now. Don't forget to say you will.
Continuing on Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. I'm Joey Mack here with you in the Country Financial Studio. Oregon baseball, 3 o'clock today. We got a 2:45 pregame show across the Oregon Sports Network. Ducks also moving the game up to noon tomorrow and noon on Sunday for a top 25 battle between the Ducks and the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. And Oregon football will scrimmage tomorrow. One of the guys that'll be on the offensive line, still figuring out exactly where he'll fit on the O-line, as he'll tell you, is Michael Bennett. Transfer in for the Ducks. He talked about why he picked Oregon and really some deeper meaning in his life as it relates to football, and football's still just a game, and he talked a lot about that, and I think you're going to end up rooting for him by the time you hear from Michael Bennett.
Just curious about your path to Oregon and why you chose this school to finish off your collegiate career.
Yeah, man. I had a lot of really cool opportunities when I wrapped up my career at Yale. I like the style of play here. I like the story of transfers who come in to succeed, and Coach Terry and Coach Landon had a vision for me. I think their ambition for me was, real and tangible, and I want to chase that goal and, be successful here, help this program succeed, and, set up my future career as well.
How do you see yourself fitting? I know you played right tackle at Yale. Is that where you're competing now? Are you also looking at right guard? So where do they sort of see you fitting in, or is it too early to tell? Yeah, I mean, like Coach Terry said, we all offensive linemen at the end of the day. I feel comfortable at right tackle. I've been practicing at right tackle, but also been working at guards, a little bit left tackle, Andy, just being able to be flexible. Ultimately it's going to be the best 5 guys, most physical guys who get out there and play. So, at the end of the day, where you slot in, that's all a puzzle piece. That's later. Right now we're all working on getting better. Played a lot of right tackle, still training at right tackle, still training at other spots too. It's a lot of new stuff. So they've been really good at helping me kind of learn some different techniques at right tackle and at guard, and it's been really good so far.
Regardless if it's guard or tackle, I'm curious kind of what you think your role is in this room. Poncho's a veteran guy. Yuli's been here a bit, but there's a lot of younger players who are kind of competing for snaps. Kind of what's your role maybe in kind of mentoring even as a younger guy, or older guy, sorry.
Yeah, so that's a cool thing about coming in. I mean, it's a new experience for me, right? We don't have a lot of guys come in from where I was coming from. So the transfer part is a little new to me, to be honest with you. But, a lot of those guys, I think the fact that I have played a ton is respected. And I think a lot of times, I'm getting technique questions. Okay, how do you do this? What do you think? Right? How do you strike this way? Why do you strike this way? And at Yale, I was kind of challenged a lot my last year to become more of a leader. I was always kind of a doer. So kind of akin to Poncho, I had to learn to step into that. And, especially in the last 2 weeks, I felt like I've stepped into that here a little bit more too. I could always do more, always get better at that. But I think at the end of the day, I want to set the tempo, I want to set the tone. And, we all make each other better, no matter how old you are.
Everyone we've talked to so far about you, his first thing they said is that you're just so smart, incredibly smart. Obviously coming from Yale, it makes sense. But What does that look like to you? I mean, what do you do outside of the game that makes sure that you're, up on it mentally?
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing is like I love this. I love football. I don't know where I'd be without football, right? And I think when you're excited to learn something, no matter what it is, like if you're excited to learn something, it's gonna make it so much easier to take that knowledge in and to want to know more, right? So when I got in here and I got challenged with this new playbook, right? Coming from a simpler offense, a lot of the kind of condensed information, I was excited. I was eager. It felt like that first, like, it felt like a trial run of like what it's like going to be like trying to go pro, and kind of taking a lot of information and, looking at my own, I was watching game cut-ups before I even knew all the plays. And I piecing stuff together there. And, as I get more and more of the playbook down, like, it makes sense. A lot of it's more so the process and of, like, technique for me. That's what really helps me is I think about why we're doing things and how and like, that kind of stuff. It makes a lot of the what's easier if you think about the hows and the whys.
Talk about watching those game cut-ups. What were the things that were exciting you about Oregon's offense that you're getting to do this year in the run game and the pass game and stuff like that?
It's a bunch of physical people, man. Like it's especially like we all watch each other as college football players, right? So even last year, before my mind was even where I'm going to be next, because I knew after the season I'd done my 4 in Ivy, I was done. Looking at Hark and World and E-Man and Ponch and all them, like those are guys that are tone setters in the run game. And even the pass game, they tone setters. And so for me, like, I was already kind of aware of that physical nature of the offense, and I like how dynamic it is. It's like it's a physical pass game too, in terms of what the receivers doing when they're blocking. And I think that's really why I love football. I love football because you get to be physical and you get to assert yourself. And that's really what kind of shouted out at me about this offense and this play style.
Yeah, curious about your thoughts on playing with Dante Moore and what he's like as a leader behind you guys.
Yeah, so I had Dante with my group last week. We are split kind of a deal we do during spring ball. And I mean, he's a guy you're excited to block for, and that's one of the things I learned early in my college career. Like when you want to block for a quarterback, it makes it so much easier to do anything you want because you're challenging yourself to go further, to strain harder, to get that extra half a second in protection. He's a guy who rallies us all together. He's a great leader. Challenged me a little bit last week in some ways, and to kind of just going a little more up tempo. And it was great. Like I need that, and that's why I came here to be around guys like that, like him and Poncho. They both kind of guys that bring the boats around them up.
Probably gets talked about almost too much, but the difference between like the Ivy League and Oregon. But from your perspective, how would you describe it? I know it's only practice here, but how would you describe maybe that difference?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like everybody's a baller. I think obviously the Ivy League in general, like there's a lot of guys who they want to have their experience, they want to be done. And that's in their respect to them. They work their tails off in college to be good players and all that. And there are some good players in that conference who do go transfer great places, and make to the league and all that. I'm coming from a lot of guys who did get to the league. So I've been around that. But I think the mindset's different here. I think everybody wants that. I think everybody wants to take that next jump. And top to bottom, it's the roster stacked, the loaded. I mean, it's so fun competing in practice, knowing it's always going to be a good rep. It's always going to be a battle, and I think that's how you get better. At some point, my old coach was like, you kind of outgrew the pond a little bit, and so at some point you got to get challenged. And that was my big thing. I want to go get challenged and I want to grow, and I want to be a great tackle, and I want to be a great offensive lineman in general. And I want to, take that forward no matter what.
Last month, it was reported that Dante had sent a letter to the governor dealing with mental health. And I'm just curious, in your time playing football, how has the topic of mental health in the locker room and amongst players kind of evolved through the years?
Yeah, so that one's actually kind of personal to me a little bit too. If you don't know, like my freshman year at Yale, my first fall camp, my dad passed away. And so, I mean, it's something I was already kind of dealing with previous. Like I've had my own bouts with it, whatever. But that reframes everything. And I was fortunate then to be surrounded by a lot of people who I didn't really feel like I belonged there yet. I'm someone I feel like I have to earn my way in somewhere. I didn't feel like I earned it yet. And I mean, I was around a bunch of guys who picked me up by the shoulder pads and said, "Hey, let's get it right."
And I think that's, that's what we need more of. And I think that's what it's been more of, honestly, across the country. And I think that's why stuff like Dante, that letter, is so strong, because it's critical to let people know they're not alone. Because, my dad, when I got my tattoo right here, he had two gorilla tats, one for him and one for me, and it had Big Mike and Mikey under it. So that's why I went and got this, and so that's my tribute to him in a way. And mental health is one of those things that the more willing you are to get help and ask for help, the easier it is to handle it. And it's never really truly easy, but the more willing you are to reach out, the more help you're going to have. And that's what I was fortunate enough to have myself in some really hard times over my career. And yeah.
You mentioned Coach Terry and talking about cross-training on the offensive line. Just what are the things that apply and translate from playing guard to playing tackle, and that you can apply from different positions across the offensive line?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the tempo changes a little bit. And you got to know your body type. Some guys want to play guard differently than want to play tackle. And I think it forces you into some different situations. You got to think, you got to process. And I think the thing is, it's at the end of the day, you got to get the job done, At guard, it's more of a phone booth. It's a ballroom brawl. That's what I like about guard. I'm a guy, I want to go put my head in there. I want to go get physical. So let's go play guard for this rep. Oh, I'm in. Let's go. I get to go do what I want to do, And a lot of that stays the same, right? It's just the angles change, the leverage changes. And sometimes your awareness of defense changes at guard because you see less of the picture, or you see a different part of the picture, I should say.
I'm glad that Michael Bennett's a Duck. Glad that he chose to come to Oregon, talking about some real stuff. When he lost his dad a few years ago, now gets the opportunity to develop. And to go back to the beginning, he was asked why Oregon. And he likes the play style. He's a student of the game. You can hear that. But also, how about the development of transfers? That's now become part of Oregon's reputation. The Ducks will always build through the freshman recruiting, right? But they will supplement with the portal. Marshall Malco, the chief of staff, Dan Lanning, the head coach, they made that very clear. That's their philosophy. That's what they're going to do. And then a guy like this, like Michael Bennett, says, I see what the Ducks are doing here. This works for me. That's why you get good transfers like him to fill in on the O-line. We'll see what that O-line looks like. I'm curious what Coach Terry ends up settling on for a rotation. We'll continue to break that down as we continue, I'm sure, throughout the spring and heading into fall camp. Timeout, full weekend schedule as we continue on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial.
Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Back to the Country Financial Studios in 60 seconds. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
In sitcoms, when someone has a problem, they just blurt it out and move on.
Well, I lost my job and my parakeet is missing. How was your day?
But the real world is different. Managing life's challenges can be overwhelming. So, what do? We get support. The Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council have mental health resources available for you at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. See how much further you can go when you take care of your mental health.
Doug Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you inside the Country Financial Studio. I'm headed over to PK Park here from the Casanova Center in just a little bit because Oregon baseball is throwing the first pitch against Nebraska at 3 o'clock. It's Stranger Things Day at the ballpark. And then tomorrow, the game has been moved up to noon due to some inclement weather. So Oregon baseball series starting at 3 o'clock today against the Huskers. 2 top 25 teams going at it. Tomorrow at noon. Sunday at noon. That means 11:45, our pregame show for each of our weekend days here against the Huskers. Bark in the Park on Saturday. Oregon baseball with all kinds of fun things planned at PK Park. The Big Ten standings. Oregon's 8-4. Nebraska's 11-1. Ducks could catch them with a series sweep. Easier said than done against a good Nebraska team that actually has a former Duck on the roster. Mac Moyer, he redshirted at Oregon, now playing at Nebraska, and he and Drew Smith are 2 of the guys that are at the top of the Big Ten leaderboard in pretty much every offensive category. That just gives you a little idea of what Nebraska is. They're a good team. They can hit, and they've had good enough pitching to get them to a top 25 resume. That's what the Ducks are facing here coming up at PK Park. Oregon softball, a critical series against Maryland. It's a long road trip. It starts at 3 o'clock today. KWVA's got the broadcast all weekend long. They will also go at noon on Saturday. Oregon softball will. And then a 9 a.m. start in College Park here on Sunday. Ducks with a big series, not just because it's in the Big Ten, but I think it sets up some potential momentum for Oregon at home against Washington. That's a huge series. Ducks, Huskies, always big for rivalry reasons, but really big for the Big Ten standings for Oregon softball. That's next week at the Jane. Got to take care of business against Maryland first. Oregon men's tennis, Oregon women's tennis in action as well. Oregon lacrosse plays Rutgers at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Oregon track and field, Oregon beach volleyball in action, and Oregon men's golf. The regular season will conclude next week, Monday through Wednesday. They're at Pasatiempo, right outside of my hometown in Santa Cruz. Best of luck to Oregon men's golf and all the Ducks competing this weekend. Football practice tomorrow. The Ducks will scrimmage. We'll have all the details for you. Talk to you from PK Park.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while